Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today's tutorial we are going to be working on the Snuggle Buddies that have the flat seam at the top of the heads. Now we make this by using what's called waste yarn. So if you need to know how to use waste yarn, this is a pretty good video to learn off of. But we're also going to be making these adorable little Snuggle Buddies. So I am also going to show you how we change color on the body. So we make this one. Now this one I didn't turn into anything. I was gonna turn it into a baby, and then I changed my mind, and then I just thought, you know what, I'm just gonna have it as a generic one, and maybe I'll do something with it later. We'll see. So what you are gonna need is you are gonna need the color that you're gonna use, that you want for your body, and then you're gonna need the color that you're gonna need for your head, and then you're gonna need a color that is contrasting. By that I mean a color that is going to really stick out against your head color. So like a blue against your white, or blue against orange, you know, whatever it is. Whatever color that you're choosing for your head body, you need a color that is just going to stand out on that head color. And the reason I'm saying this is because in the video I messed up. I ended up using my Red Heart Super Saver Erin, focus here, Erin, and then I used Red Heart Super Saver Baby Pink as my waste yarn. And then when it came time to show you guys how we do our working off of our waste yarn, I realized, well, that wasn't smart to do, because it got to where you could barely see the difference. And I thought, in the video I tell you guys, I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop my video, and then with the power of movie magic I come back with one that's a lot better. So make sure your waste yarn is a color that is going to stand out on your head color. Very, very important, okay? And then I'm going to put a link in the description box for safety eyes and the safety noses. And then you might need some felt, you know, for like my fox here and my owl, I use felt on them. And then I tell you how to do the little ears if you want to do ears, and I tell you how to do the little ear tufts on the owl. Let's see, what else? You're going to need a crochet hook. In my video, or in my doll, I just use a 5mm, show it, a 5mm crochet hook. You don't have to have that size. You just need it because for slip stitching the waste yarn off. But okay, so you're going to have that. And if you guys want to add some embroidery floss, you know, get you some embroidery floss and a small gauge needle for your embroidery floss. You're going to need scissors, and that's it, guys. I mean, basically any supplies that you're going to need to decorate and go crazy on your little Snuggle Buddies to create little cute animals. I wish I would have thought of it sooner and turned this one into a raccoon, but I did not think of it soon enough. Dang it. All right. Okay, so get your supplies together. Don't forget your 22 peg Addi machine, 22 hook Addi machine. I don't know what you call it. I am by no means an expert on these Addi machines. This is just what I've created playing with mine. If you're an expert at yours and you see something I'm doing wrong by any means, you know, feel free to comment and say, hey Alana, you know, maybe you should try it this way. You know, respectfully try to do that. You know, don't be an a-hole in the comments. Anyway, all right, so get your supplies together and let's get started. Okay, so to get started with our the flat top of the head, these excuse me, these are going to be made using what's called waste yarn. So we're going to work 5 rounds of a waste yarn. So to make your 2 different color, I'll set it here, your 2 different color body, you're going to need the color you want for the head, the color you want for the body, and then a color that's completely different from both of them for your waste yarn. So for example, today what I'm going to be doing, I'm just going to make a like a generic body. Like I don't think I'm going to make anything out of it. So I'm going to have my head color, which is Red Heart Super Saver Erin. And then I'm going to have my body color, which is some scrap yarn from another project that I've done and it's I love this yarn from Hobby Lobby in the color Hot Orchid. And then I have Red Heart Super Saver Baby Pink for my waist yarn. So it's a color that's completely different from my other colors. All right, so let's just get started. So I'm going to get my Addi to my first black pin, and I'm going to get my waist yarn. Oh, I got to get my little chip clip. All right. So I have my little chip clip. These are not necessary. I prefer them. I'm going to put in the description box a link to my first video. It gives a better description of what they're for. But anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to come around the first black peg and behind the next. In front of the next, behind the next. In front, behind, in front, behind, in front, behind, in front, behind. We're going to repeat this all the way around to the first peg that we're on. Open our yarn guide, set it inside, and now what we're going to do, we're just going to work 5 rounds of our waist. And remember, the first round, the Addi never likes it. Alright. So now I'm just going to waste these 5 rounds. Okay, I'm going to go one more, and I'm going to stop at my first black peg. Take my yarn out. Now I'm going to cut it. I'm going to bring my tail to the inside. Now we're going to take our head color. So I'm going to go with my Aran color, and I'm going to bring this inside, and then I'm going to hook, let go. There. I'm going to take this tail and the tail that we're starting with, and I'm going to hook them together with my little clip. Okay? Put it in here. All right. So now we're ready to start working the first round of our head color. So I am going to turn this until the counter changes, and I'm going to go back to 0. And now we're going to work 20 rounds with our head color. The first round of our head color, the Addi wants to try to fight a little. Make sure your tails are to the inside. So I'm going to go slow on this first one. And I'm going to make sure the first peg is catching again, just like it should on the rest of them. All right, now I'm going to work my 20 rounds. Last round. All right, there's round 20 because here's my first peg, my first black peg. So I'm going to stop, cut a long tail, bring it to the inside. I'm going to get my little chip clip back. Just hold that. And now I'm going to get my body color. I'm going to put that in there, and I'm going to clip it with my head color tail and the beginning of my body color tail. Put it on the yarn guide. I'm going to turn it till it clicks. Now I'm going to set my counter to 0. And now we're going to work 80 rounds of our body color. Okay? It's going to fight a little on round 1. Alright. Alright, now we work the 80 rounds of our body color. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is my work is getting really long and it's dragging on my surface right here. So I'm just going to put my hand in there. You can take your chip clip off. And I'm just going to pull it up a little, like pull the end up and then push it back down inside. So that way the fabric that we're making, the material we're making, the stitches are holding our work and it's not dragging on my surface. Okay, here is my last round. Right there. There's round 80. So we're going to stop. It hasn't clicked yet on my counter, but that first black peg lets me know that's the 80th round. So I'm going to stop and cut my yarn. Take my body color tail to the inside. Now I'm going to go back to my head color. Put it on my yarn guide. Come underneath those pegs. And then I'm going to use my chip clip to hold my yarn here. And I'm going to turn this until the counter clicks. Like that. And now I'm going to come back to 0. And then we work our 20 rounds for our head. Now, like I said earlier, the chip clip isn't 100% necessary, but they are quite handy. Because if you don't use a chip clip, then you just hold the yarn right here when you make your round. But it's a little hard to do when you're holding your tension and trying to turn your wheel. Okay, so 20 rounds of our head color. Okay, so there's round 19 and there's row 20. All right, so I'm going to cut my head yarn. I don't want it on that black peg. I want the last white peg. Okay, so now we're going to go back to our waist yarn color and make sure you get under that first black peg. Go into your yarn guide. Now I'm going to use my chip clip again and hold. And now I'm just going to work 5 rounds of this waist. I did a little more than 5, but that's okay. All right, so cut that and then take your waist yarn color off your black needles, and then all we're going to do is, well, take your chip clip off. And now we're just going to turn it with no yarn on it. That was one pass. Now we're going to do it again. And all of our work comes off the needles. Just like that. And then we can pick up our work and set it to the side. And I am going to move my Addi out of the way. Okay, so now we are going to bring the head color to our head color. So our inside layer and our outside layer, we're going to bring those together, okay? And I'm going to pull them open because what we're going to do is we're going to take the head color and the body color tails. This doesn't need to be that long. And we're just going to tie that in a knot together. Just like that. Okay? Cut my tails even shorter. And I'm going to go around, make sure there's, what do I got here? Okay, so now on the or the outside layer, we're going to do the same thing with these tails. And we're going to tie those in a knot. Okay, I'm going to cut those little tails. All right, so now we are going to get this positioned. So I have this Band-Aid on my wrist because yesterday I was picking up sticks in the yard so we can mow. And I had them all in my wagon, and I put my hand on top of all the sticks, and I pushed to mash down the sticks. And when I did, one of the sticks came up and jabbed me right in the wrist. It hurt. So, all right. Now sorry, I got off track. What we're doing is we're lining up the head color and our waist yarn color, which I realized mine was probably hard to see on camera. I should not have chosen this. I should not have chosen the waist yarn color that I did. That's all right. Okay, so actually, to help with this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause my video and I'm going to get my camera all reset up again so I can be closer to the camera and you guys can see better. So I'm going to be right back. Okay, so now I'm repositioned. I'm back to where my normal little filming spot. So what we are going to do is we are going to hold the two ends of our pieces, right? And if you can see, we have tails here and we have tails here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to try to line that up. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we're just going to set that together. So whenever you get all your ends cut and tied together and your two pieces laid out, try to make sure these two pieces where the head yarn and the waist yarn start and end on their two layers are together like that, okay? But we are going to start with a slip knot on our crochet hook. And what we are going to do you know what? I am going to stop here because I may, like, for my eyes to look at my yarn right now in real life, it looks fine. I can see the difference between the Aran and the pink. However, on camera, it's different, and I don't think you guys are going to be able to see it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop, okay? And I am going to make another little sample, but I'm going to use a different waist yarn color for... The reason I'm doing that is because I want everyone to be able to see clearly what I'm trying to do, and I should not have used that pink yarn. So I am going to set this to the side, and I'm going to stop my video, and I'm going to make another little body, and then I'm going to use a different color waist yarn so you guys can get a good picture of what I'm trying to do, okay? So with the power of movie magic, I'm going to have my new body done. Okay, so with the color change to the top of our work, get a slip knot on your crochet hook, and we are going to go right into the very top loop that you can see right here of your head color on the outside, and then we're going to come over to the very top loop of the head color on your inside layer, and we're going to slip stitch those together. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect. If you're off a stitch, it'll come out in the end. It's no big deal. So we're going to run right through those and pull through both and work a slip stitch. And then we're going to catch the next top loop and the next top loop and slip stitch. Go into the next top loop, the top loop on this one, the head color top loop, and slip stitch. And that's all we're going to do all the way around, okay? Slip stitch into the top head color loop on each layer. Slip stitch them together, just like that, okay? All right, so go ahead and repeat that around, and I'm going to meet you when we get back to the color changes that we've got going right here, okay? So I will be right back. Okay, so I'm back, And I've slip stitched quite a few of these together all the way around, and I'm coming back to where we started, and now I'm going to stop, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my yarn all kind of organized here. So this is my working yarn. I'm going to get that out of the way. Pull up a loop, take my hook off, get that out of the way. So now I've got, okay, so here is my outside layer, head color, and waist yarn. And here is my inside layer, head color and waist yarn. And here's the tail from when I started slip stitching. So tighten that, set that to the side, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my head color to my head color, and I am going to knot those off together. Okay? Just like that. And I'm going to go ahead and snip those. Okay? And now, I get that tail out of the way and my head or my waist yarn tail out of the way. Go ahead and tuck them inside if you want to. Your head color tails. You can tuck those to the inside. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to finishing this up. So I have here and here, here, and here. And now I'm to where we tied together, but I can still see there's one right there. Make sure you're not catching your waist yarn. Just go through your head color. And I'm going to go right there and slip stitch. Pull up a loop and stop. Okay, so pull up your working yarn loop and set that down, because now we're going to pull off our waist yarn. So for our outside layer, just grab your tail and pull. And that is the waist yarn on our outside layer, pulled off of our little doll. Okay, now we're going to bring out that inside layer. Now this one, we can't just pull the tail, because if we do, all it does is it's drawstringing it shut, right? See how it's tightening it shut? So what we're going to do is find that tail, okay? Find the outside tail, and then what we're going to do is we're going to pick up the yarn at the top. So like if you lay this out, and you can see all the strands of yarn, the very top strand, trying to get this to where you can see, the very top strand, every time I let it go, it lays over this very top strand. We're going to pull. What that is that's the drawstring that's causing it to tighten down when we pull it. So once you get that all pulled out, all the way back to where your tail was, once it's all pulled out, you can just start pulling it, and it comes right off. Just like that. So now what we're left with is the tail from where we started slip stitching, our working yarn, and there is our loop that we pulled up. So I'm going to tighten that back down. I'm just going to work one more slip stitch in there to make it look a little prettier. Okay? And now I'm going to chain one and pull up a loop. And that is the top of our head. Now what we're going to do is we'll just sew that back and forth shut. But before we do that, I want to go ahead and add eyes and I'm going to add eyes. If you guys want to make this into any animal, if you watch the first video, the link is in the description box. I give you guys a little bit of ideas of how you can design this into different animals and how you make this and how you make that. But I think I'm going to turn mine into a baby. So I'm going to get some of my safety eyes and go from there. See what I got. So I'm going to be right back. Okay, so I got 2 safety eyes out, and I kind of I ran through both layers, and I'm kind of just eyeballing it. Get it? Eyeballs, eyeball. Anyway. And I think I like where that is. Now, I am going to put a link in the description box for the like the multi-pack of safety eyes that I'm using. And the reason I'm not telling you, well, I mean, I think these are 6, 7 or 8 millimeter eyes. That's what I'm using. However, the size that you're going to need is going to completely depend on the yarn you've chosen. You know, did you have to hold your tension tighter for that? That's going to make your doll smaller. Did you not have to hold your tension that tight? That's going to make your doll a little bit bigger, or your Snuggle Buddy a little bit bigger. So, I mean, I'm going to put a link in the description box for the multi-size eyes, so that way you guys can kind of, you know, try it on your doll or your Snuggle Buddy, see how you like it. How does that fit? Do they need to be bigger? Do they need to be smaller? I'm going to go with mine are okay. And so I went through my inside and my outside layer, and now I'm just going to put the safety backs on. And I went to the second little click whenever you put your safety backs on. So can you see the little ridges on that? I went to the second one. 1, 2. Oop, nope. Yeah, that was 2. All right. So there are my little eyes. Okay, so now we can sew the top of our head shut. So I just cut my yarn. I've already slip stitched into back to my beginning. I didn't slip stitch it shut. Chain 1, cut, and then we're going to pull that. And now all I'm going to do is get a needle. Oh, here they are, right in front of me. All right, now we're going to put that long tail. I'm just going to let this one go to the inside. We're going to take that long tail, fold it to where our eyes are straight, and I am just going to start sewing slip stitch for slip stitch, just sewing it shut. Now, because I didn't pay attention to what I was doing, if I move this to where the edge where we started, if I move that, like slid it over so that this the slip stitch is going to be in the corner, which what it should have been, it would have moved my eyes. So for what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go stitch for stitch, sewing this shut. And then I've got 2 right here on the end. I'm going to go right through both of them. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert that and run it all the way back to the edge that I didn't sew shut. And then I am going to finish sewing this side shut. Oops, pulled that right off there. And into these last 2, just like that. So now I'm gonna make a loop. So I came out this side, you can see right there where my yarn is coming out. So I'm gonna come around and go in right there, but I'm gonna leave that little loop right there. I'm gonna run my needle through it, and I'm gonna pull it down to where it's right on that edge. And basically all that is knotting it off. And then run my needle through the inside. Try to go through both of your layers, so if I get my hand in here, I can feel my needle. And then I'm just going to pull that. and run that tail to the inside, just like that. And snip a little bit of that tail off. Okay, now I'm gonna go get my polyfill and we're gonna stuff them. Okay, so I got a big old chunk of polyfill here, and I'm just gonna go right in here and start stuffing. And in my other video, the video where we make our round-headed Snuggle Buddy, I kind of talk to you guys a little bit about how when you're stuffing a knitted fabric, a knitted material, I should say, the polyfill, sorry, let me rephrase that. The knitted fabric material takes the shape of the polyfill, whereas when you're stuffing something that's crocheted, the polyfill will take the shape of what you crocheted, right? So like right now, this is what my little Snuggle Buddy looks like because of it taking the shape of my polyfill. So it's a bit of a pain in the butt with this knitted material. But all I'm gonna do is just my best to get in there and give this somewhat of a round head. So what I do, and now we can see pretty clearly where our neck is gonna be. So I'm gonna get in there. I'm gonna take my fabric and I'm just gonna squeeze it into a circle while I'm squeezing the neck. And I think just by looking at this, I'm gonna change my mind and I'm gonna turn this into a animal, not a baby anymore, because it just looks funny. The round head needs to be a baby. Okay, so the head looks pretty good actually. If you guys want to shape it a little bit more, you can. So I'm gonna go ahead and start stuffing my body. Which my body is a little tighter than my head. So my stitches are probably gonna stretch a little bit, but that's okay. And what I'm doing is I'm putting my hands in here like this, and I'm getting into that polyfill and I'm pulling it apart. So I'm going like in it and then pulling it apart, all in a circle. So then I have a little hole in the middle, and then I go back in there and I stuff that hole. And that keeps that outside, it keeps the body part of our little Snuggle Buddy rounder. Not looking so lumpy, I guess you could say. Okay, every time I look at this, I think it looks like Hello Kitty. So basically what I'm doing is I'm putting my fingers in there and pulling it apart to make a little hole. Like there you can see it, a little hole in the middle. And I'm doing that until I like the girth of the body. And I'm liking how this isn't that big. I still need a little bit more. Ah! You guys can hear my elbow cracking, my wrist cracking, my shoulder popping. Everything's popping. Okay. All right. I'm gonna go a little bit more still. Okay. It's a little lopsided, but I can fix that. Okay, I'm going to call that good. And you can see how full the bottom is. All right, I'm going to call that good. Okay, so to close off the bottom, we are going to get a long strand of our body color. I'd say roughly, pulled the wrong end. Oh, good. Pull out a good 4 feet and then cut. And then we are going to get everything out of the way. Bring your 2 ends together. And then we're going to cut this. And what we're going to do is use 2 strands to close this bottom. And the reason we're doing that is because the number of times I've accidentally popped my yarn doing this. All right, so what we have right here is we have a fold, right? A fold from our outside and our inside layer of our knit. So what I'm doing is I'm going to insert my hook and I'm going to, like I'm pulling up. This is, if you can see, my needle is right where that fold is. That's where I want my yarn to run all the way around. So I'm going to insert and make sure it stays along that fold. Pull it to enough tail about that long, okay? And I'm going to go right back in where I came out. Continue along this fold. Just like that. Go back in where I came out. Go along the fold. Go back in, and I'm going to come out right where I started. There. All right, so now I'm just going to pull that tight and close up the bottom. So I'm going to tie both of these into a knot, and this is where I always pop. So using the 2 strands, hopefully it doesn't pop, but I'm going to knot it off just like that. All right, now I'm going to take the longer end that I have, which it doesn't matter. You should have at least a long end. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to run it up the middle, and I'm going to come out of one of these side stitches. Don't go through your yarn, just come out the space between. And what I'm going to do is give that a little bit of a tug. And can you see the little indent it creates from giving that little tug? And then snip. And what that does, that indentation that it creates at the bottom, just gives us helps the little snuggle buddy stand up. All right, so now I am going to do the same thing with the other set of tails. If your tails aren't long enough, just run them inside there to hide them. It's not a big deal. Remember, don't go through your yarn, go through the space between the stitches. Give it a little bit of a tug and snip, and your ends pop right back inside there. Okay, so that is nice and pretty. All right, now we're going to do the neck. So the neck, we're going to do the exact same thing we did with the closing up the bottom. We're going to pull out a long tail, cut it, line up your 2 ends, and come down to your other end, and then we're going to cut and weave that on a needle. Sorry, I should have said this. Use your head color for this part, okay? All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to weave this, which if you guys can you see how the inside, you can see the body layer of mine? You can try to fix that. All I'm doing is just shifting stuff around the best I can. It's not a huge deal if you can't. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this. So I'm trying this. That kind of works. All right, all I'm going to do is run this needle along where my head and my body color meet. And I'm going to try to go through both layers. If you only catch one layer, it's not a huge deal. But I'm just going to go in and out and pull to where I got a little bit of a tail there. Start at the back of your doll, okay? And then just go in and out. All the way till we get back to where we started. Just like that. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to pull that tight. And what that does is give that neck that good, I don't know what the word I'm trying to say is, a good indentation for our neck area. All right, so pull it tight. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pull it tight and knot it, and then bring it around to the front, cross, bring it around to the back, and then we're going to knot it completely off. Just like that. And that is another spot I always pop my yarn. So running 2 strands through there works perfect. Okay, so now we can kind of get a little rougher with it, with shaping it. All right, now these tails, I am actually going to snip my long one off. I'm going to run those on my needle. All right, now I'm going to run it inside my head. I'm going to come out the side. Don't go through your yarn. Go through the space between the stitches. Pull it through. Pull tight. Snip. And then my ends go right back inside. Now I'm going to reshape a little bit. Okay. It's adorable. All right. Let's see. Okay, so I think I'm just going to leave mine the way it is, and this is just going to be my little generic body that I was using as an example to show you guys. But let me get my camera repositioned. Okay, so I'm just going to leave this one as my little generic body that I use to show you guys how to change your color and how to make your seam at the top of your head, how to use your waste yarn. Now, you guys can go absolutely crazy with designing these, how all kinds of different ways. And you can see a really good example of what I was talking about. So this is the exact same pattern, right? But look at the difference in the size of this one. This one was a yarn that my Addi fought a lot, fought against really bad. So I had to, I noticed loosening my tension kind of helped. There's some errors in it, but it's hidden. So that's why this one's just a tad bit bigger. Also, it's got I didn't cut it, or I didn't make the neck at the same area. That's why it's a little bit taller too. But so here's some examples of how you can decorate yours. So like felt, like this is a fox, and this is the one that this is the Snuggle Buddy I made that I wasn't the best. I didn't do my best on. Still love him. But you can see just adding a little bit of felt, just like I put little triangles in its ears and then around its nose and the belly. You can use felt to, create your little animals. And then on this one, all I did was on my Addi, I did like 20 rounds maybe. Maybe not quite that many. You're just going to have to experiment. And then what I did was pinched the little ear that I made on my Addi, pinched it around the corner of my doll and sewed that together, and that's how I got the ears on the puppy. It's got something on its face. And then the nose was an afterthought, so I actually used some fabric tack and glued that nose down. That nose will not come off. I'll put a link in the description box if you guys want some fabric tack. Isn't he adorable? So that's how I made the puppy ears. Well, then on the cat, I did the nose and then just ran some yarn through the nose. I think I could have trimmed the whiskers off a little bit more. But then what I did for the ears was I just pinched off the corner the best I could, pinched that off, and then I took the yarn and then just kind of weaved it in and out through the back and knotted it off. I could have went higher with it, like, you know what I mean, like made the different color yarn go up higher to the tip of the ear, but I didn't. So all you gotta do is just pinch that and shape it how you want it. Oh, I could have made a raccoon. That just came to my mind. Sorry. Anyway, but and then just run your different color yarn through the head, just like completely through, in and out, in and out, in and out, and then you know, shape it and then make it come to a point, and that's how I made my cat ear. But like I said, you guys can go crazy with decorating these and making them however you want to look. Oh, I forgot the owl too. I'm sorry. The owl. So the owl, I used the felt around the eyes. I just kind of cut a circle and then made a snip in the center of the circle and popped the eye through and then popped it through the head. And then I did 2 little triangles for the beak. And then on its little ear tufts, what I did was kind of shaped the top different to where the top came out like that. And then I took the body color and just put it on a needle and ran a couple strands through, tie it in a knot, and then trim those strands. And that's how you get the owl ears, the little tufts on the owl. I forgot all about the owl. But there you go, guys. That is how you work your waste yarn to get the flat top of the Snuggle Buddies. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Like I said at the beginning, I am by no means an expert on these Addi machines. I'm just showing you what I've made on them. These little Snuggle Buddies. If you guys, and having said that I'm not the best at these, I'm also not the best at filming one of these tutorials. I always film crochet tutorials, so it's got a little bit of a learning curve on how to film this, but I hope I did good. I hope you guys understand. If you have any questions, my email address is in the description box. Also down there in the description box are links to my Facebook group, my Instagram, and I have a Twitter account. Whichever social media platform you guys use and you make these, I would be so happy if you could tag me in your picture, or if you're in my Facebook, post the picture and let me see what you guys make, because I think you guys could come up with such cute things and it'd make me so happy to see. Let's see. Oh, subscribe if you haven't, because I have way more coming. I have a bunch of Addi tutorials that I want to get done. I want to get out. I even have tutorials for knitting looms, like peg looms, and I have a bunch of crochet tutorials. I am a crocheter. I will never stop putting out crochet tutorials, but I want to add more to my repertoire, and I want you guys to be able to expand your horizon and see what you can make. Okay, so subscribe if you haven't, so you don't miss what's next. Hit that thumbs up if you enjoyed. Comment, let me know what you guys think. Let me know, are you gonna get an Addi? If you don't have one already. I ought to do a video explaining pros and cons of an Addi. I think Crystal at Bag O' Day did, but I'll have to see. Anyway, that's it, guys. I'm out of here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.